Good afternoon, everyone. Just thought I'd pop in again to have a chat with all of you guys and take you through the Royal Hotel, that Craig's Royal Hotel in Ballarat shoot that I did with Kiara. I thought I'd talk about posing, lighting, everything else with you guys. So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes for people to pop in because it's way past our normal time of doing a broadcast. So I don't know how many we're going to get in live, but it doesn't matter because they can watch the show later on as well. G'day, Mick. How are you? Good to see you in here. Ben's here. G'day, Ben. How you going? Good to see you here too. It's another beautiful cold day in Melbourne today. It's raining again. We're loving it. So if you are popping in on the live chat, say hi. Like I said, I will give it a couple of minutes before I pop over on to going through this shoot. I really adored going through this shoot and I can't wait to sort of take you through it. Mario's here as well. G'day, Mario. Good to see you on board. I put a video up yesterday too to say thank you for the 10,000 subscribers. So thank you so much, everyone. Can't thank you all so much for following me. And I put a whole thing on yesterday taking you through my whole YouTube life basically, and it was quite good fun to put up. So have a look at that if you haven't actually done it. Ben said frigging cold. No, it's so cold today, Ben. I hate it. Tom is saying hi. G'day, Tom. How are you? So I'm only going to give another minute or so just to see how many people we can get on. If you can too, guys, I'd love it if you could give me a thumbs up because it does make more people see it and then we might get more involved in the chat. But we'll just see how we go. Like I said, it's not all about that. I'm trying to do this at a different time to give people in Europe a chance or something to get on because I'm just checking what time it is over there. It's 5:30, so it is early in London at the moment, but at least it's not late like I usually do it for you guys. So I thought I'd pop in at a different time to see how we go. It's 2:30 p.m. Melbourne time. Mickey Blue Eyes, g'day mate, how are you? It's obviously 12:34 in New York and it's 9:34 in Los Angeles, so it may be a bit late for our American friends. Just to let you know too, to celebrate the 10,000 subscribers, I am going to have a meetup here in Melbourne, probably in 3 weeks' time. I'm doing that because Kiara is going away for a couple of weeks on holidays, so I want to have her involved as well because she's worked so hard for me over the coming weeks. So I'm going to actually do a shoot in Melbourne. We're going to walk around Melbourne and basically you guys can photograph with me, Kiara, in different locations. And I'm going to be doing this in around about 3 weeks, so stay tuned for that. Now, I will be doing this also for my American friends next year because I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be going to the States next year and I will be meeting up with you guys there as well. So you're not going to miss out, but obviously I'm going to do this local first. So if you are from Melbourne or anywhere in Australia and you do want to get involved with this, make sure you keep checking my site because I will be giving details in the coming weeks and you'll be able to get some beautiful photos yourself of Kiara. Obviously meet me and Kerry and everyone else too. Ben's going to come as well, so there's going to be a few people here. So it's just going to be something that I can give back to you guys. And again, there's no cost for this because basically I'm just giving you guys something back. So I'm really looking forward to that and I can't wait to do it. So who else have we got in here? Jason's saying hi too. Ed saying, hey Dave, this is my favourite photography channel. Glad to see you live. Thanks so much, Ed. I really appreciate that. Peter said, just watching your last video and I got the notification for this. Alan D'Antoni, I think. Hello, I just landed in New Orleans. Been great watching your channel. Loving my new A7 III. You can't go wrong with that camera, can you? At all. It's just amazing, Alan. Ben's saying he's going to come to the meetup. Barry also saying hi. And Ben said, need an assistant in the USA. I think that'll be Kerry, Ben, but you're welcome to come if you want to come with me. So there's quite a few watching now, guys, so I think we're probably going to start going through the chat anyway, and I'm just going to basically talk to you about this shoot that I recently did. It was shot with mostly with the A7 III, and I did do some with the A7R too, and that's what this shot actually was. I'm going to take you through basically all the shoot. Random just said, what about people in California? Yep, next year, Random, I'm going to be visiting the US. So I'm probably going to visit parts California and also New York. So I'm going to try and do both of those places so I can meet up with all of you guys. So stay tuned for that anyway. But the first one is obviously going to be Melbourne. And I probably will film that anyway, so you're going to see it anyway. All right, as usual, before I go on to this, This is one thing that I really want to share with you guys, because unlike a lot of YouTubers out there, I am a full-time working photographer, and I am, no matter how big I grow on YouTube, I'm still going to have an emphasis on my real shooting, because to be honest, it's my passion and I love doing it. There's no way I ever want to let that side of it go, because I really do feel like I'm an artist and I need that. I need to do that job to really basically fulfill my needs. So you're going to keep seeing this all the time. But I do love taking you through the shoots and explaining how I lit it, whether it was natural light, how I posed, obviously Kiara in this case, and things like that. So I love taking you through this, because hopefully you can learn something from this. And to be honest, if you really are into photography, you should be getting more out of this than you should with gear and hardware reviews, because this is more important, I believe. The art side is way more important than anything else. Bike Vision Scotland said, good morning from the Scottish border. See, we have got some Scottish and UK viewers in, so that's fantastic. And that's why I've done it this time, Bike Vision, to try and give you guys some live chats too. I will open up at the end for some live chats as well. I'll keep checking to see what you want to, if there's any questions you'd like to ask, and I will come back to it during the actual shoot too. So let's go through this. So on the day, I decided I took quite a lot of gear for this shoot. This was a corporate shoot for this company. And basically I wanted to use some natural light, which this is. I also wanted to use some Icelights and also my Pro Photo. And I'll explain in each case where I used the lighting in each one, so you sort of get an idea about how I've shot it and everything else. Now you can see this one was shot with the A7R2. If you look at the top up there, you can see that it's shot with the A7R2. It's shot at 1/25th a second at 3.2, and it's ISO 640, and it's the 85mm. Once again, nearly all the lenses that I'm going to be using on this will be the 35 and the 85 Batis, and occasionally I'll be bringing out the wide angle lens, which is the 16 to 35 f4. So we'll also have a look at that too. But basically what I'm going to do is take you through what I was thinking when I shot this. This image, I work with a number of suppliers for this image. I work with a company that sells the jewelry, which you can see basically that she's wearing there. And I also worked with a company that gave me the flowers as well. Now, that was fantastic. It was Village Chic for the jewelry, and it was Vanilla Slice, which are both companies that are in Bacchus Marsh near me. And they basically, well, they gave them to me for nothing. So it was fantastic, as long as I was willing to let them share the images. And of course, I love working with local suppliers. And that's one thing that you should be able to do with a bit of luck, is to work with local suppliers. And that was one great thing about this. So it did give me the jewelry and also, excuse me, also the flowers as well. Now, the main thing here that I wanted to showcase was those flowers and that jewelry in this beautiful setting of Craig's Royal Hotel. It's a stunning old building. Just to show you what the building looks like, I'll scroll to the end so that you can actually see the hotel where this was shot. This was the hotel where I did the whole session. It's just gorgeous. It's called Craig's Hotel, and it's just this stunning old building that you can see in a city here in Victoria called Ballarat. And it really is a stunning old building. I went back the next day to capture this image because I wanted to grab it in the morning with the lights lit up and everything else. And it's just stunning, and it's been renovated really authentically back to when it was created. And I can't remember, it was the 1800s or something. But anyway, to take you through the results, I wanted to show this image, but I also wanted to always capture the ambience of this old beautiful building that's been completely renovated. So I didn't want to lose any of this sort of detail that is in the background. And that was the thing for me here, that I did want to maintain that. Now, when you're looking at these images, I am showing you the edited images in this scenario. Sometimes I show unedited ones, if you've seen before, but I am showing you the edited images here. So please, if you're looking at these, don't think, particularly later on if you're looking at this, don't think that these images are noisy. I've added noise into these images to enable it to be grainy, and I wanted that in these images. So basically, what I wanted to do is make sure that I got the ambient exposure. Now, the ambient in this case there was no flash used and there was no ice lights used on this one. I wanted this to be done completely from natural light. The natural light was filling in from a window that was over in this side, and you can see it streaming in across this area. And that's where I was so careful about my exposure settings, that I didn't blow out any of the highlights, particularly on Kiara's face and the jewellery, and also the flowers. I had to really be careful not to blow out the flowers, because I did want that detail to be showing in those areas. Like when you're dealing with, inside here, I wanted to make sure that, that detail was actually kept. So that's really important for me. And like I said, don't worry about noise when I enlarge these, because that's part of this image. I love that grainy, old sort of look that I wanted to get with these images. Again, it's given that beautiful sort of split lighting that's come through across her face. Now remember, the important thing when you're posing someone like this is to turn them away from the light. You can notice that I've definitely pushed this shoulder forward. That shoulder has come back, and that's given that lovely shape. And then I've asked her to sort of tilt her face a little bit towards the light. And that's one advantage of whenever you're doing this type of posing, it's always good to angle the body away from the light and then move the face back into the light. And that's given her that lovely lighting. It's lovely soft lighting that you can sort of see coming across her face there. Remember, the shadows are extremely important on these images to get that really lovely light that's actually coming through. I'm just checking what someone just said then. What speed lights and wireless triggers could you recommend for Sony? Well, anything. Now, Godox is fantastic, Sam. Godox is really good. I use the Sony flashes, the HVL60 or whatever it is, but they're really expensive now. I'd probably be recommending people go for Godox, something like that. You can buy 3 of them for the price you pay for one Sony flash, but yeah. Let me go back to this. So that's given you that lovely fall off across her chest, which is really pretty. And it's also given her that lovely, it's almost Rembrandt. It's getting close to Rembrandt lighting, because you're starting to see the lighting on her cheek through that area there. But again, I love the look of this. I didn't want to shoot this one wide open, which is usually what I do, because I wanted to make sure I kept some of that detail in the flowers and some of the detail in that background. If I shot 1.8 and focused on Kiara's eyes, I would have potentially had this out of focus and the background would have been way out of focus, and I wanted to show both in this scenario. So that's where I made a judgment to shoot this at 3.2 instead of 1.8, which usually I do love shooting completely wide open. So let's go to the next image. So that was head and shoulders, and you'll notice too that often what I'll do here is I'll be shooting head and shoulders, and then I won't really move, or I'll just move my feet back or whatever. The exposure will stay exactly the same, and then I may do full body, I might do 3/4 body. So I'll continually shoot around that same area, move around a little bit, I'll start to move sideways. So this next shot was basically done exactly at the same time. But here, what I've done now is I've grabbed the whole dress. So basically, it's this, in this scenario, I've tried to make sure that I'm showing her whole gown as well as something else here. I'm just checking what it's saying there. Bayo, midnight in the US, still struggle to watch the live. Thanks, Bayo. Yeah, I've just decided to do this at a different time for some European viewers and stuff. But you can always watch it later if you don't want to watch the live. So again, basically I've altered the exposure a little bit here. You can see I've gone, no, it's exactly the same. Sorry, yeah, I haven't changed anything. All I've done is step back to give more of a full body look to this image. Now again, just behind Kiara, so just to this part of the image against the wall, there was some beautiful wallpaper. So what I decided to do through here was to have her standing against that wallpaper. And again, this was completely with natural light. No, sorry, I used the ice light here because there was no window actually there. Kerry was with me on the day, and she was holding the ice light up to the side through here, and she held another one a little bit down through here, and you can see that that's given her that fall off through the face. Now remember, the ice light gives you very window-like looking lighting, and that's why I forgot for a second what I'd actually used here. But it has given her that ability to show that. You can see the shadow that's coming through there that you're getting where the shadow's falling. Also there on her breasts and stuff, you can sort of see it through there. But basically, it's still given a lovely soft image coming through. This was also shot with the A7R II because I just asked her to move a little bit back. and it's basically the same settings again that I was using before. It's just now I've supplemented the window light with the ice light, and that's the beauty of using these ice lights, is I can create window light very, very quickly. And guys, I rave about the ice lights. I'm not sponsored by them. I bought 3 of them myself. They were $500 each. They're dear, but I love them. And again, you can see there, I've asked Kiara to just gently give that a hand against her face there. Again, it's really important with girls to try and get these curves. So her arm is moved away from her body there, and she's got this lovely curve coming through her body there too, just to give shapes. And again, because it's sort of flat against the wall, well, her shoulders are a little bit flatter than what I would normally light them, but the lighting was made from the ice light anyway, so it wasn't really an issue. She's still got that beautiful lighting coming through the face, down the side, through there, and, you know, it's given her a nice bit of shape on the nose, etc. And again, it's really highlighting that lovely wedding dress, the jewellery, which I'm trying to sort of showcase through here, and the earrings, and also the flowers, as well as that beautiful location as well. The next one we can look at too is I decided then to go outside. So we went outside. This time I've used the A7 III, and now I'm onto the 35mm. So I've now grabbed the 35mm. I'm on 1/500th of a second. I'm on f2.2, and it's ISO 125, and I'm using the 35 1.4 ZA, which is my favourite lens. And again, you'll notice here what I've done straight away. Remember, I'm always saying look for the light, and that's the most important thing here, that light is streaming in from this side through here. So that's the thing that I'm doing here. So even though I've got Kiara standing in the shade here, you'll notice that the main part of her face is pointing towards that light. And that's the main thing when you're dealing with natural light. And this is what I've done here. I'm just using completely natural light in this scenario, and she's basically looking towards that that beautiful soft light. It was quite a glary day, but it's soft because there's no direct sun actually coming in off that image. And again, you know, it's that shoulder is a little bit forward, that shoulder is a little bit back, which gives her that nice shadow on that side. So it's giving shape. You'll notice that it's giving a lovely shape on her face, which again is really important. And basically all I did was I exposed for that highlight. So I've exposed for that area through here. So I didn't want to lose any of that natural beautiful highlights, and I didn't want to lose any of the natural highlights on her face and on the dress. So I've made sure that I maintain that, and with exposure, and then so I've underexposed a little bit and then brought that back later on in the shadow recovery of the amazing dynamic range of the A7 III. So, you know, it's just beautiful. And I've done a couple of them here. So again, I'll just do variances of the similar pose, where on the next one you can see here that I've done a very similar thing, where again I'm trying to showcase those flowers. I'm trying to showcase Kiara, obviously, and that beautiful dress she's wearing. And again, you can see that I'm utilizing that natural light coming through this window, and it's just lighting her up beautifully through that area there. And you get that lovely fall off all through this sort of section coming through here. And this is why I'm saying to you, it's so important to have that, be aware of where the light is falling in and face her into the light. And that's the real secret with any of this natural light type photography, and even flash photography, is you angle the body away, which you can see is happening here. That part will be lit up and she's pointing directly towards the light, and that's really important to do. And like I said, as long as I'm monitoring what's happening in the highlights, well, then I can bring that back later on, which is the most important thing for me, to be able to bring that back. We then moved indoors to another room, and you can see here what I've done. I've actually stood on a chair. I'm using the 35mm here as well, and I'm using one 320th at 1.4, so I am shooting this wide open because I wanted that to be really soft. I wanted that to be basically focused on Kiara's eyes, and then I wanted it to just fall off into all these areas and give you that lovely sort of out of focus look that you're getting in the background. It's just important whenever you're doing this type of shot, though, that, you know, she does bring that chin right up and look up, and that's the most important thing that you've got to do. I've turned that shoulder a little bit away. This one is twisted a little bit towards me to give her a nice bit of shape. and I've obviously asked her to move the flowers in, so you're just not looking at a whole chest area. She's brought that in, and she's moved those eyes up, facing towards me. So that chin has to be sort of pushed up that way, and that's really important when you're dealing with this type of shoot. So just be wary of that. But I really do love doing that type of shot, and it's really a signature shot that I always do with brides. Another thing too, in the same room, I then went back, and this was more an environmental shot that I wanted to show for the actual, because this hotel is going to use these images in wedding brochures. So I wanted to sort of show the whole room to them, this beautiful chandelier that's above Kiara up the top there, and this beautiful room where this is where they'll actually have the wedding reception in this massive room. And I believe one of the English royalty was there the week before we were there or something, having dinner in this amazing room. It's just stunning. This hotel is gorgeous. Once again, this was completely natural light, guys. You'll notice that there's window light coming through these areas through here, and obviously the window light is streaming through here. All I really had to do in this case is to expose the highlights again on Kiara, and to make sure that I didn't lose this chandelier. I wanted that look of that chandelier there as well, so it's important to sort of maintain that. And I really am about shooting the environments, and that's the important thing about this. I didn't mind that the light's coming in across the floor like that. I love the way the ambient light's showing through the door through here, which just adds a bit of depth that lighting through the background. Again, this was done with the A7 III. The dynamic range of that camera is nuts, and it gives you so much flexibility when you're shooting this type of image. And I'll show you on the next one actually how amazing, though, you know, you can start to get the dynamic range in these images. I've done two versions of this. I did the full one, which you're looking at there, and I've also done one where I've cropped in here. And what I've made sure here is that I haven't lost any of that beautiful window. And this is where someone who's inexperienced wouldn't quite understand what to do here. And the thing that you've got to try and do here is you've got to be able to light up Kiara and maintain that beautiful lighting in that light above Kiara, and also that LED lighting, which was streaming light in through there. So I basically exposed for the ambient here. I was basically exposing for this and also this to make sure that I didn't lose any of that lighting at all. And that's what I went through on the original exposure with that image. So I had to underexpose this a lot to get this to work. But what it doesn't show here is that Kerry is using Icelights here to light Kiara up. She's holding basically two Icelights. And this image, I'm going to just quickly show you this image so you'll know how it's been created, because it's quite complex if you look at it. And basically what's happened here is, I've just got to find where Kerry is. You can see what's happened here is this is how much I've underexposed, and I've had to make this image out of two images. It was impossible to get this image like I wanted out of one exposure. So what I've done here basically is I've had one exposure like this, and I'll just bring up the thing so you can see what's happened. I've had one exposure like that. That's pulling the exposure completely up. And then the next image here, I've had Kerry standing there with the two Icelights that you can see. Just let me reduce this so you can see what she's doing. So you can see Kerry there is holding these two Icelights, which is just giving Kiara that lift in that to make her basically blend in with the environment. Because the thing is, when you're doing this type of shoot, it really has to look as natural as you can make it without it looking like it's been really over flashed. So let me just delete that, and I'll just take this back. And this is where I had the wonders of the A7 III. Actually, this is the A7R2, so I lied. This is the A7R2, so even that camera is amazing. So again, I knew that when I was going to do this that I would be exposing for the ambient light. And you can see what I've done here. I've made sure that I haven't lost any of the exposure on that light, and I haven't lost any of the exposure on the light above there. And that's the trick for me. And then basically what I've done is I've then combined them, and I've taken Kerry out. So I've used one image where Kerry was out of it, and then I've used the other image where she's lit Kiara up, and that's how I've been able to get that image in. So it is basically a composite image of two images put together, but I tried to use flash and it just didn't look right. I was getting quite hard shadows that were coming off the back through here, and it was, no matter how much I underexposed, because remember, to keep the lights coming through that chandelier, through the LED lighting here, and to keep the detail in here, the second that I put flash on it, it really destroyed the image. So I thought the only way I was going to be able to get this was to have Kerry using 2 ice lights and to light up Kiara just enough to separate it from that background. And you can see how that's basically working through here. That's where I'm getting that lovely fill that's coming through Kiara here. There's no shadows that are coming out. And, you know, the ideal thing here is that people just won't know how it's been lit. And that's the beauty of doing this type of lighting with something like the ice lights, which give you that lovely soft look that I've been able to get through there. We then moved down to another location, and this was done on the stairs. I've done 2 versions of this, and I'll show you 2 versions. But basically, the first one, there's no way I could have done this unless I used the external flash. Now, I was using the Profoto B1 here, but you could use Godox, you could use any flash. It wouldn't make any difference as long as the flash was in a softbox. I was using a Profoto B1, which had a 2-foot octa. You know, it sort of looks like this. And basically, it had a grid in it that looked like that. Now, you have to have that, because if you don't have something that has a softbox with a grid in this scenario, you are going to get shadows all over the place, and they're going to be firing all over the place. You can see that there is one actually on the stairs through the back through there. But this was shot with 1/250th of a second at f5.6. I wanted to basically still keep that detail in that window up the back up there, and I also wanted to keep the detail in the lights. Like, all the detail for me is really important in these ambient shots, because I wanted to show the beautiful hotel the way it is. And that's why I exposed this the way that I did. And you can see that basically, because I've used the flash in that beautiful softbox with the grid, it's pointing the light directly just at Kiara and not lighting anything else up. And that's the beauty of doing it with that type of a reflector. And it's control lighting, and that's what you've got to basically try and get all the time. You know, I'm not spilling lighting all onto the background through here. I'm not sort of spilling all lighting onto here or even onto the stairs. So yes, it's very challenging, but you've got to try and think about how can you solve this drama of what you wanted to do. I just wanted Kiara to gently touch the stair there, so you can see that she's put her hand on that, just to add again that, you know, a bit of angle in the way she works or moves. The shoulder is pointed forward there. Again, she's moving that shoulder away, and the face is going straight back towards the light. So again, you're getting that lovely soft look that's coming through her body through there. And I really adore that shot, and the hotel absolutely loves it. This was another quite challenging shot as well. Again, I adore this one as well. When I walked into the hotel, we had free access to the hotel for the whole day. They gave us a few rooms that we could put all stuff into and shoot through the rooms. I looked down one of the hallways and I saw this amazing LED lighting that was down the back through here, and it was just stunning. And I thought, oh boy, I just can't wait to use that. Look, you could even crop this differently. Some people have said to me they don't like the light up the top, but I do. But it just depends on what you're after. I could easily crop that out though, if I wanted to, and do a different cropping. But I love that aspect of it. And to be able to keep that detail, say, through here, and the detail in this LED lighting, and also through Kiara, through the dress, through these sections here, what's happened here is Kerry, there's a door here that you may be able to just see. Kerry is inside that door, and she's holding 2 ice lights like that. Now, I've got the actual reflector on the barn doors on the ice lights, so it's control lighting. Because if I didn't have the barn doors, I'll just grab them, guys, so I can show you exactly what I mean. So bear with me just for a second. So what I wanted to do was I use these. So the ice light actually goes inside here, and then you can move the barn doors to have control lighting. So you've got to do that, because if you don't do something like that, you're going to have spill all over the place. And what's happened here is that if Kerry didn't put the barn doors on the ice lights here, this would have all been lit up. So you wouldn't have control. Basically, the way I shot this was I used the barn doors at such a minute opening that the only slither of light was just kissing Kiara through that section through there. And that's what's given me the ability to manipulate that light so well. And it really, I love that. I adore that shot. And that's basically the difference between, using something where you've got the barn doors like that. Let me just check what someone just said, because they've asked a question about the ice lights. George just said, I think he's taken it out. He did ask a question about ice lights. I think it was the difference between ice lights and Neo rotor lights. I've got the Neo rotor lights too, George. I find the ice lights to be, well, I find them better personally, but that I'm not saying the Neos aren't any good. I've got 2 of them, but I've only got the version 1. They have now got new versions out there. I bought 2 ice lights, but I use the Neo rotor lights more for video, like when I'm doing receptions and things like that I want to light them up. I find because they're fairly small and round, the ice lights tend to give a nicer, softer light because they're long and narrow and they have that diffusion on it. It's really soft and really beautiful light. The other thing I like about them too is you can screw them in together and then they will cover the body in one go. So Kerry can hold the 2 ice lights actually screwed together and they will light up the whole of the person in one go. I've actually got 3 of them and then you can use one for hair light and things like that. So to be honest, if I'm using photography, I use ice lights. If I'm doing anything with photography at all, I'll be using ice lights. I find they're softer than what the Neo rotor lights are. It's just a harder light source. There's something magic and voodoo-y that they do with those ice lights that give it such a beautiful, soft light. And I love the way the barn doors work. And instead of using that round, like a round type light, it's using a very long and subtle light, and I found it's so close to window light. I'm just talking about my usage and how basically I like to use it. Everyone will differ. Some people may like the Neo rotor lights better. I definitely like the ice lights better. But yeah, it's just basically what you want to use. I'm not saying the Neos aren't any good. I've got 2 of them, but I just prefer the ice lights for portraiture. What else have we got here? So that's that. So that was shot at 1,250. Now, the reason why that's shot at such a high shutter speed too was because I had to basically make a judgment here about controlling ambient light, depth of field, and using the ice lights. I pumped up the ISO to 1/250th. And again, look, people always say to me, well, why did you have such a high ISO? You could have dropped that down and then lowered your shutter speed. To be honest, running that type of ISO on the A7 III is nothing. I just don't worry about those sort of things. I'm not a pixel peeper. I am an artist, and you've got to understand that aspect of it. And my clients basically choose me to give them the art. They don't give a hoot about what there's noise in the image or whatever. It's all about the image. I'm just answering another question because I want to make sure I've tried to get through this. Have you tried using the Rotolight AOS? No, I haven't, Tallies, but I still think for the cost, they're way more expensive than the ice lights. And plus, it's still that shape that to me is not going to be as soft as what an ice light is, because it's the way that's so diffused. If you look at them, they're really diffused type lighting. I'd love to try one about, giving one a go to see how it actually works. But at this stage, no, I'd prefer to use ice lights. They already work for me and I love them. Ed just said, great photo, David. Love the window and the lantern placement. Thank you, Peter. Ed said, do you ever do light painting with the ice lights? No, I've never tried that, Ed. I should try it one time. It may spill too much, though. I'm not sure. Peter said, wonderful composition. Thank you, Peter. And remember, guys, there's no right or wrong with this hardware. I only talk to you about the stuff that I use and that I've paid for. So I'm not being paid, like I said, to promote ice lights at all. It's just that I do love them. And like I said, I've got Neo rotor lights and I prefer the ice lights. The next shot is in the same location, but instead of having Kiara sitting down now, I wanted to have her walking towards me. And you can see that this one has different processing done. I basically, now the issue with this one through here was, I had to try and separate Kiara a little bit from that background. I'm just going to have a bit of water. And it was just a judgment about how I wanted to process these images. And I love the way that is just sort of highlighting the little flowers in Kiara's hair and the purse that she's actually carrying. If you look down there, she's carrying a little purse, and the dress and the jewelry, and I adore the lighting on that. The second one was I wanted to actually process with a little bit more color. This was probably closer to what the hotel, those lights actually look like though. But this time I've actually used the ice lights from the front. And again, it's just given a bit more fill, but I wanted to have a look like she's walking down the hallway straight towards me. She's just gently holding her dress. So, you can sort of see that she's just holding her dress through here. Again, you can see the purse, which is what I wanted to advertise, and also the flower headpiece that she's wearing, and obviously the wedding dress, all wanted to be showed there. And the important thing for me here is that I have still kept that detail in that lantern above, and I've kept all the detail in the background. And this is the beauty now with these high dynamic range, how much you can sort of hold them. The images are just stunning that come out of the camera. I mean, these have had a fair bit of editing, and you've seen me edit before, and I will do some more editing. Because this is a corporate shoot, I'm more showing you the finished results today through this. Again, we move down to another part of, and look at too, like all the detail that you're seeing in this wallpaper, this lighting that's coming through here, the way the picture's still holding the detail up through here, all the detail through that section, and the detail and the light coming through here. The amount of detail you can get and the amount of dynamic range you can get out of these cameras now is just stunning, and this is why I just love shooting now so much. It's just amazing what you can do with these type of images. Again, the next one, the dress manufacturer, the Village Chic, also supplies dresses. So I wanted to try and photograph Kiara here wearing this other dress. And again, you can see immediately I've asked Kiara to use the shaping, because remember the triangles gives that beautiful shaping, and you get that lovely S-curve if you can. A really great thing you can ask females to do is basically, force the bum to go backwards, and that gives that lovely shape through the back. Through here, and separate the legs and put a bit of a curve in the legs. It just makes all that difference. You can see that through here. And again, I used the Profoto B1 here though. So this was off-camera flash that was used this time. Kerry was just standing off to the side through here with the octabox, and it's just lit her up, separated her from that background, and so that's why she's facing that way towards me. But it's really, like I said, important to keep that hand away from the body and give that lovely S-curve shape that is really beautiful. This was also shot with the A7 III. Let's go on to the next shot. Again, then we've done another dress change here. I adore this image. I love it. I just love the way that she's again doing that beautiful pose. It's given her a lovely shape through here. The legs crossed. I asked her to cross her legs at the back. And again, if you look, the natural light, this is completely natural light again through here. And it's given her that gorgeous soft look through here that, again, the shoulders are turned sort of away parallel to that light, and then her face is moved sort of more pointing towards the light, and it's given her that lovely shadow that comes across her face. I actually think the shadow on this image makes it, and I do adore the way that it looks. And remember, Kiara doesn't need to be slimmed down, but if you are trying to really make have a beautiful portrait of a female, and try and make her look as gorgeous as possible, it's beautiful to use shadows like that, because it is slimming, and that's the thing that you've got to consider when you're dealing with this. This was just basically advertising this dress for this company, and they adore this image, so I'm just so happy with how that image actually looks. The next one was again quite challenging, because I wanted to shoot Kiara sitting down in that same dress, but basically in this really dark room. This room was really quite dark, and there was natural light coming in through the window, but it wasn't enough. So Kerry is actually off camera here, and she's holding two ice lights, one up the top and one down, to give more fill in Kiara that you can sort of see through here. there just wasn't enough to sort of separate from the background to give enough lift and to give that beautiful shadow. Again, you can see that she is facing the body, which again, I'm trying to explain to you that's so important, that the shadow, the shoulders have to be pointed towards the light and away from the light on that corner, which gives that lovely shade that's coming through here. It gives that lovely shade through there. She's also tilted the head down, which I adore. And she's also tilting the face a fraction towards that light again, which gives her that lovely fall off that you're getting all through here, which, you know, I just love that type of feel, and I love the processing I've done to this. I know I hope I don't sound like I'm full of myself, but look, in art you have to believe in what you're doing, otherwise what's the point of doing it? And I do love my work, and I love my job, and I do love to feel like I'm an artist, and that's the important thing for me. Again, she's just basically put her hands on, I asked her to do that very softly on her thing there, and it's same as on the chair there, very softly and open. This was shot at 1.8 this time, so I did want this to be very soft and wide open, but I just adore the way you can still see that little bit of separation in the background. I hope you can see that on YouTube, but I love the bit of separation in the background through there as well. You know, that it just gives it that little bit of a lift. I could have had another ice light put on a stand and given separation on the back. That could have been another thing that I did, but I just adored the fill, the shadow that was coming through there, so I decided not to do that. Just let me check back here on questions for a second. Peter said, wonderful composition. Thank you so much, Peter. Michael said, wonderful composition. I love your work with Kiara. Thank you, Michael. Kiara's fantastic to work with. I've been enjoying it so much. And it's been great working with the same model. I haven't done that for a long, long time because I've been shooting so many paid shoot with models that I really can't get to work with a girl extensively. And it's given that ability for me to do this, to work with Kiara so extensively. So I really am enjoying it. Again, another one that I wanted to show you here was this was with natural light again. Well, I shouldn't say natural light. This was also Icelights. And you can sort of see here that, again, I just wanted to show that lovely wallpaper that's in the background. And I just wanted that lovely soft look to this lighting of Kiara just looking back at me. Again, in this case, compared to the other one, I've asked her basically to have this shoulder front on. Oops. I've asked her to have that shoulder front on to me. And it's really nice that way too. Now, Kerry had the ice light on a using the barn doors again, and you can see that. You can almost see the slit that's sort of forming through here, so it's given the shadows through here. And you can see how it's given that slit down there, that this is just basically in light, and this is all falling off into shadow. That's because I had full control over where the lighting was in those ice lights, and that's the beauty of this. You know, Ben has shot with me a number of times, and he said he would love to get ice lights because he's seen how they function. I'm not sure whether he's still in the chat, but if he is, he'll chime in about that because they are absolutely amazing. And I adore the soft look of this image. This again was shot with the A7 III. It was shot with the 85 Batis at 1.8. The next one here, just let me check back to comments to see if anyone's asking anything through here. I need to make this a bit smaller, actually. Taylor said, this composition and the lighting is fantastic, my favourite so far. Thanks for that. Trev Pinnicky said, your lighting seems to be close to Rembrandt, but not quite. Is this something that you came to intentionally? Yes, it is. It's just the way I design things. To be honest, like I've said to you, whenever I'm doing anything, I look at it visually myself to what I want. I really don't give a hoot about whether it's going to be split lighting, Rembrandt lighting, whatever I'm going to be doing. Because the important thing for me is how it looks to my eye and to think about how I'm going to process that later on. That's the only thing that matters to me. And this is why I've said to other people that get too head up in the settings and these other things about how much noise is in an image, etc., etc. It really doesn't matter. The thing that matters is the image. And that's why I'm trying to explain to you that the art side of this photography is more important than anything else if you want to really start to get paid for your work, because that's why people hire you. They don't hire you because you've used a low ISO. They hire you because the image looks beautiful. And that's the thing. That's the most important thing. The emotion of the image is the important thing. what the message is trying to tell you in the image is the important thing. And it's the things like shadows, the playing with highlights against shadows that really matter. It really doesn't matter the settings. You really should be concentrating so much. Now, I understand, and this is where I've had arguments before with people when they've been commenting, but I understand you do have to learn the basics, and yes, I understand that the settings are still important to get your initial exposure. But when I'm looking at surroundings, I'm not even thinking about what settings I'm going to be using. I'm thinking about how I'm going to pose Kiara in that setting. Where am I going to put her? And this is the important thing that I have to say to you guys was really, like, if we look at this next image, and I'll explain what I'm talking about here, that the questions, and this isn't to everyone, but the questions that people should be asking about an image is, why did I sit Kiara in that position? Why did I have her looking down in that angle? Why was the light in a certain place turned on? Why did I sit Kiara's legs in a certain position? They're sort of things that are so important about an image when you're dealing with it. It's more about the emotion of the image rather than about what the settings were actually used in the image. And it's more about the posing and the Lightroom and things like that, the lighting and things like that are so important to get your head around. And if you really are trying to get into portraiture and to be making money off portraiture, these are the sort of things that you really should be learning rather than, what setting is used or why did you use such a high ISO. And sometimes it does do my head in when people say, but why did you use such a high ISO? And I felt like saying, but did you look at the image? Does that bother you in that image? And sometimes I actually like noise. Believe it or not, I've added noise into all these images. And that's what people sometimes go, they freak out by thinking, you've added noise into an image? I don't want the images half the time to be clean. I love the grain, and I love that from when I worked with film. Remember, film always had a film grain look to it, and it looks like that. Sometimes if your image is too clean, it can look digital, and I like to get away from that, and that's a really important thing. I don't want to rant to you all, but I really am trying to pass on my knowledge to you guys to say that you really should concentrate so much on the art side of photography. It's so important if you want to take yourself to somewhere else. Now, if you're in it for a hobby, I can understand completely that the settings, that's all that matters to you because you are more into the geeky side of photography, the numbers and things like that. But if you're in it to make money, I can tell you no client has ever said to me, I don't like that image because it's noisy, ever. And that's the important thing, I want you to understand. So let's have a talk about this anyway, because this image here, and keep asking questions, you guys, because I will come back. Let me just go back to that for a second just to make sure I haven't missed anything. Bike Vision said, great insight into lighting, and that's the important thing. Like I said, you learn more from this sort of stuff than I could ever teach you about why I used a certain shutter speed or ISO, and that's why this is so important for me to teach you this. And remember, guys, I came from a teaching background. I taught in university for 20-odd years, and that's why I love teaching so much. And it's probably why I love doing this type of thing so much for you guys and having these sort of chats with you. And I'm not holding anything back at all. I'll tell you basically everything, and that's the beauty of our conversations together. The image in the dark room was really lovely. Yep, thanks for that. BMW said, congrats on the 10K. I know, how good is that I've made that with you guys. I'm so happy, guys, and I just can't wait to grow with you guys. I really can't. Trev Pinicky said, I go straight to the face in your images, and a lot of that for me is the way the lighting fall across the face, and that's the most important thing. Yeah, remember, you've got to have a focal point and something that's so important about how you adjust your images. And it says, I like the film look, and that's the thing too. I'm the same, Bike Vision Scotland. I love that film look in images, and to me, like I said, it's all about that emotion and getting away from that digital type look that I love. I love the vintagey, dirty, gritty, grimy type feel, and it's straight down my avenue. Mario said, does the quality craftsmanship of the camera make a difference to you? Do high quality tools inspire you to do your job better? Look, they definitely help. I'm not going to lie to you, Mario, that definitely the latest sensors definitely help you with things like recovery, and they definitely do. And there's no reason why you can't do these with even a camera from 10 years ago or whatever, you could still do it easily, but you'd need to have more lighting and things like that involved because you just didn't have the same dynamic range. So sometimes having the latest cameras, particularly Sony and Nikon, Canon shooters are going to hate me for this, but the recovery in Canon is just not as strong at the moment. Particularly in Nikon and Sony, the dynamic range is particularly so strong in those cameras that it does help you in this type of scenario, yes, for this type of image particularly. I mean, you're dealing here, I've used an f4 lens in this, and this is where I say to people, don't get so caught up on having to have a G Master lens to get this type of image. Guys, this was done with the 16-35 f4. This was not shot with a G Master lens. And this is where I laugh at people thinking you have to get the G Master 2.8 lens to get an image that will work well in a dark environment, which this was. This was really dark, this environment, like really dark. And I love this image. I think it's actually stunning, and I love the light fall off. I love the way the lighting sort of comes through here. I love the way the lighting is sort of coming all through this area and even over the bed. I just adore it. And this, like I said, was done with the 2 Icelights again. There was no flash used on this, and this was the secret to getting this to look like it was. I've got Kiara to do a beautiful sort of pose where she's moving her legs like that, beautifully sort of relaxed. The fingers are nice and open through there. I've asked her to point her head directly down to that area because I love the way she looks down very softly. I had to put her feet on that stool because the bed was so high, her feet couldn't touch the ground. So I did have to have her feet on that stool so it looked like she was natural. And remember, a really important thing to have with a girl, or anyone actually, is to sit them right on the edge of things so that they're not too far back, and to keep their back straight. That was the important thing. And I asked her to put her hair through the front like that, which gave that lovely soft look. Kerry had 2 Icelights. Basically, she had one that was up higher, one that was down a lot lower, that just gave Kiara enough fill to light her and separate her from the background. But I adore this. This was shot at 1600 ISO, 1/25th of a second, and it was shot at f4. That was a minimum. Obviously, I could go with the 16-35, but it is important to me that I explain to you that you don't have to have these really expensive lenses. I mean, the 16-35 is still not cheap, but you don't have to have the 2.8 glass to get amazing results in this type of scenario. And this, guys, is where I always tell you the truth. And this probably is an advantage to me not being sponsored by anyone, that I'm not trying to sell you a 2.8 lens. It just shows you what you can do with an f4 lens here. And, that would be the same if you had the Sigma. It would be the same if you're using Samyang. No matter what lens you are going to be using, a Tamron or whatever, you do not need to have 2.8 lenses to get gorgeous results. And it's just something that, I really want you to try and understand when you're looking at this type of work. This was the second shot that I told you about, with Kiara standing on that stairwell. I wanted to advertise the dress and the jewellery here. So it was the same thing done as before with that off-camera flash that had the octobox through here with the grid on it that just gave Kiara enough lift from the background. Again, the important thing here was Kiara's pose, that she's just got that touching of the rail through here. She's sort of got that curve in her arm. And again, she's just got that lovely shape in her legs that give it that beautiful shape through the bottom. And this is the important thing about that. When you're trying to deal with posing the girls, I always say to them, bend anything almost that you can. If it's able to be bent, bend it. And it's an important thing that gives you that lovely S-curve through the back through here and that lovely shape here. She's on her toe through there, which gives her a lovely shape through her leg as well. And again, I've exposed for the ambient and then just given them just enough fill to light Kiara up under that scenario. Next one up, by the way, guys, too, please give me a thumbs up if you can. I'd really appreciate that if you could. This one had Kiara sitting down. Again, this was shot this time with the 85mm Batis, so I've moved right away. And what I've actually asked her to do here is to basically sit on the corner of the couch because I wanted her to look towards the light. This was shot with natural light. There's a door that's through this area out here that is naturally just enough to give Kiara a nice bit of lighting. You can see that she's angling her shoulders a little bit. She's again got the nice curves happening all through here. I've asked her to basically cross her legs through there, and her fingers are always nice and open, and now Kiara's really good at that now. She always knows now to have that nice open look with her fingers, and she's put the chin down lovely here. Sometimes the girls can unnaturally put their chin up a little bit too much, and I always like to have them bring their chins down a little bit more, which I really love, you know, coming through there, and it looks really beautiful. And again, this was shot at f2. I wanted to show enough detail in the background to show all this lovely ambient stuff that was going off through here. And like I said, this was completely shot with natural light, and I love it. It's important too with feet though to try and make sure that you don't get funny angles in the feet. Try if you can, even though they may feel uncomfortable, it's important to try and have their feet square. If they're bent and looking weird, it'll wreck your whole photo. So be very conscious of that when you're dealing with it. And again, she's got that lovely shadow that's giving her shape on her face and things like that as well. Let me just go over to the chat again. I think people are asking. So Casper said, night time, why so late? I wanted to try and give people other, like the Europeans and stuff, some time, Casper. So I've decided to change it today just so that others can get into the live environment, the live chat. Otherwise, it's always sort of late night, midnight for them. So, you know, you've always got the option. All my US followers and stuff can be watching this in the morning after they get up. So yeah, I just wanted to vary it so other people can pop in on the live chat and ask questions. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This had Kiara outside. Again, I just love this sort of stuff, this paint that's falling off the building through here. This was just in an outside area. I love the fact that you're getting all that. Again, I wanted to make that nice and soft look with Kiara here. This was all natural light. The only ice light used in that photo, no. The other one, this image here, was all natural light was used in that one. No, yep, no lighting at all. Again, this had natural light. The light was actually coming in from the side through here. I've asked Kiara to go against the wall, and that's why you can see that lovely, you can sort of see the shadow forming underneath her hair. But, you know, it's just beautiful. Actually, no, sorry, the light was that way, yeah. The light actually was out there, and that's why you can see the shadow coming through here. I adore the look, like I said, on the wall here, this rusticy sort of paint. Again, a thing to remember too here is that she's giving me the angles that I'm looking at through here. So that's the beautiful part about that. She's got that little tilt in the head, which I really like as well. And the chin is not too up or too down, which is really important as well. I just love the way the hair's falling across the face through there too. Again, really nice image, I think. Another room, which is very similar to that other one that you just saw. This was in another room, which was also incredibly challenging and very dark inside this room. Again, I've done the same thing here. This was lit by ice lights again. And I've found the ice lights are so beautiful when you're trying to match ambient lights to incandescent lights and stuff like that that's going on in the background here. So I've exposed basically for the ambient lights, and Kerry has just used the ice lights off camera. They're basically just off here. There's two being used with the barn doors on. There's one up higher and then one down low to light up the whole body. The one at the top is just lighting up Kiara on her face. The important thing to think about here, and this is where it's really hard to post people on beds, guys, is to make it look natural. I've asked her basically to sit as far on the edge as she possibly can, and you'll notice too that the leg is curved beautifully through here, and it's given her that lovely shape with the way the arm is twisted down through this section, and she obviously has to support herself, and I don't mind that actually in this image. The more important part to me is the way that she's got that lovely shape going on through here with the way her legs are crossed and the way that she's just looking at me directly on with that beautiful shaping that's being caused by those ice lights matching this ambient background. The important part in here though is that I've kept this without being overexposed, which is this lighting that you can see in the background that still kept that shadow and the highlights. You know, I've kept all of the highlights there, and the shadows are all open enough that you can see detail in it. And that's the important thing that I'm sort of trying to stress to you in these images, is that it's so important to look at the detail in shadows. Don't forget just your highlight detail, but you really have to try and keep shadow detail if possible as well. And that's what I've enabled in this, and it gives you that lovely dynamic dynamic range that you can get. This was shot with the A7 III. This was also shot with the 16 to 35 f4, again, showing you that you don't need to have the 2.8 version to do this. And it's shot at ISO 2000. So again, it's really good as well. I'm just noticing a question, so let me come back to this for a second. Trev said, how are you finding the distortion with portraits and the 16 to 45? No, there's no adjustments done on this at all. You can see there's distortions though, because you can see it through here. And you can see it on the bed. If you'll notice, the important thing about what I've done here is I've tried to put Kiara in the middle, and that's the secret when you're using wide-angle lenses. And you'll even notice it too, that in this one, Trev, is in here, again, she's actually getting closer to the middle and the outside. You can see on the outsides, I could fix this actually in post if I wanted to. You can see that that's got distortion, but because Kiara is in the middle, there really isn't any. And that's the important thing about how you deal with, oh, you can't see it. Let me just come back. I'll just show you on this again. You can see here, let me go back to this one and I'll explain it. There's distortion coming through here, and there's distortion coming through here on the angles, but you can see that I've got Kiara in the middle. And again, because she's in the middle, there's no distortions there. It's fine. If you're not careful, though, there will be, and you've got to be careful that you don't angle the camera up or down. You've got to try and keep the camera straight. That's a really important thing as well. In that second one, let me just eliminate that. In the second one through here, you've got the same thing here where you've got the angle through here and you've got the angle through there. But Kiara is more in the middle. So again, I've eliminated distortion. So I'm always conscious about what's happening when I'm using wide angle lenses. This was shot at 16mm, so this is as wide as that lens will go. But because she's in the center, there's very, very little distortion on Kiara herself. And that's a really important thing to actually do. There's another couple of important things as well that, you know, if you're dealing with wide angle lenses, and then I've done this with heaps of brides models or whatever, if you're trying to shoot really wide for an environmental type scene, what you have them do is lean forward. Now, it can be really unnatural looking for them because they're leaning so forward. But what it does, it takes out the distortion of the camera. And all you've got to do is cut them off at the bottom of the feet or whatever, like cut them off at the knee, and you won't see that distortion or that funny way of standing. But it alters the way the distortion works. Now, when you're looking at images like this one, I could have taken this into Photoshop and got rid of all of those distortions down the sides through here. I haven't bothered because, to be honest, I don't think it needs it, and it doesn't bother me at all. So for me, but I could have taken that out if I wanted to, and yes, I could do it quite easily, but I haven't bothered in this situation. The thing that's important for me is that Kiara is not distorted, and you know, and just the ambience in this background and the pictures and stuff is what makes it so important to me. You know, is the important thing. Second last photo, and then we'll just have a couple of questions if you want a couple of questions. This again was a really quite challenging one as well. You can see here that this was shot with the 16 to 35 as well. And again, I've tried to put Kiara fairly close to the center in here, and I've tried to keep the camera straight as possible. If you angle, the thing is, if you angle the camera up or down, like for instance, if you're shooting with a wide angle and you go like this, or you go like that, you're going to have horrible distortions on them. So what you've got to try and do is to maintain as square as possible. Now you try and get Kiara or your model in the center as much as possible, and then you try and maintain as much squareness to your subject as you can, and that will eliminate as much as possible any of those distortions that you're actually getting in your images. So, you know, that's a really important thing that you can get there as well. And this was an image that I was talking about, that this is the perfect image of saying, you know, why would I have put Kiara in that position? This is what the sort of questions people should be asking. And obviously I've stuck her in that position to allow that light to come in through the window to give a little bit of softness. Kerry was standing in this area here with a couple of ice lights to just give a bit of fill. Because there was so much light coming in through this window, if I didn't allow for that and underexposed, I would have lost all of the detail in those curtains, and all the shadow detail would have been gone. So basically all I've done here is I've exposed for that highlight, and then you can see that it's allowed that lovely edge to come through on Kiara. But I've also kept the detail in the shadow. Yes, you can adjust the brightness on the ice lights, yep. And I've just used ice lights to give that fill in the background, and it's just given enough in the shadows so you could open it up. And that's the important thing for me in that scenario. And I just love, again, the ambience here of having the light show up naturally without overexposing that light. I love how it's still kept the detail in the windows, and it's still got all that detail through the shadow area. This was also with a 16-35 ISO 100, and it was shot at 28mm. So this would be a perfect case where you could use the new 28-75mm lens. You can see here that's shot at 28. 28 is actually quite wide if you're dealing with that. So the 28 would be good for these type of shots. Oh, it's gone again. I always forget to go back, sorry. Let me just come back. Yeah, this was shot at 28. You can see here that you've got that lovely light that's sort of coming through the background through here. I've kept the detail in the window, and there's still detail in the shadow areas, so I've been able to open that up. You can even see the curtain up the top. So the dynamic range again has been really helped in this scenario. And I think it's just amazing that you know what you can do now with something like the A7 III or the A7R III. The A9 is a little bit behind, not much though. It's amazing how much you can bring that up. Someone just said there's a difference between the A7R2 and the A7 III. I'm still happy with the A7R2 with dynamic range. I'm still tickle pink with it, but the A7 III definitely is a little bit better. Last image was the one I showed you early on, which is the outside image that I took. That was shot with the 16mm at f/18 because I wanted to try and get the lights to be nice and exposed. I did a long shutter exposure on this one, which was 1.6 seconds, and basically, I love that image as well. So I just wanted to take you through the whole thing. I'll take you back here so you can see that image. Yeah. So the ice light there was two of them used here. There was an ice light that was up the top through here, just to give a little bit of fill in that area, and there was an ice light used down there. I asked Kerry to adjust the exposure just so it just gave fill in that area. So you just got a bit of fill in those dark areas coming through, and there was enough natural light coming through here that opened up the shadows up the top. Like I said, it's really important that when you're dealing with images like this, that you think about the whole ambience in the whole room. You know, I mean, that's the important thing that I can say to you, is that if you're dealing with lighting and you want to make something really painterly or beautiful, and you're in a gorgeous location, don't underestimate the natural lighting that's in that area. And this is where a lot of people, yeah, the phone stand, yeah, I probably should get rid of that. This is where a lot of people will make a mistake and they'll use off-camera flash or something that's quite flashy, and they immediately destroy the natural ambience in that location. And that's the really important thing that I can say to you here, is try and work with the natural ambience of these locations. Don't try and fight it, work with it, and add lighting that you need to make that image much better. And that's the important thing that I can sort of say to you, is it's really important to work with that ambient light. So are there any questions, guys, before we go? I didn't want to make this too long, but I've probably gone on for ages again. How long have we been going? An hour? I'm going to get abused again. Yeah, there's a couple of things. That phone nightstand, yeah, I could have taken that out, I suppose. There's other things that I may look at too later on. I just wanted you to take through that shoot anyway and sort of explain to you. I hope if there's any questions about this, leave them down below, because I'd love you to ask some questions as well. And, anything that you'd like to know about how I shot it or whatever. I've sort of taken you through the way I was thinking and the lighting that I was using, why I use lighting in certain scenarios, why I use flashes in certain scenarios. And I really do love giving you these sort of extras. And I just do this sort of stuff to say thank you for basically following me, and it's something that I can give back to you guys that you don't have to pay for. Ice lights, if you go to my links, you'll see them. They're actually in there. For links in the links, they'll be down below, so you can have a look and actually see them there if you wanted to have a look. That's about all. Well, that's about all, guys. So please, if you can, big thumbs up. don't forget to hit that notification bar, because if I do come on live, it's the only way you'll ever know is if you hit that notification bar to get live things to say about when I'm popping on, because I pop on all different times, so it's really good to know. I would like to know a little more about Icelights as well. I have put a couple of shoots on, tallies, if you want to look at it. I've showed that in a few shoots, so you'll be able to see me actually using them. If you scroll back through a few videos, you'll actually see me using them and stuff like that as well. I will do a video too, actually showing how I use them for you all soon too, as well. Bike Vision Scotland said, time flies when you're having fun. Cheers for the live broadcast. No worries, guys. Okay, that's all for now, everyone. I'll see you all for the next video. Bye for now.